Break on the Rise News, and it's time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive, and we'll begin with our sister publication this morning, This Day. The first headline in This Day: Bawa, Naira Redesign, significant step to economic recovery, he says. And also in This Day this morning, Southeast businessmen support Tinubu's presidential bid with 1 billion naira. Jimovia IT practitioners to headline Zenith Tech Fair. Those are the headlines in This Day this morning.
The Punch newspaper is leading with election violence, hoodlums attacks, federal government deploys soldiers, the DSS, that's the State Security Services, to in INEC offices nationwide. The security team is to be drawn from the army, the police, the NSCDC and the fire service. Nigeria's poverty exceeds World Bank projection. 5 states lead. Of course, you listened to that report earlier. 133 million Nigerians now living in multi-dimensional poverty. And the Naira depreciation, inflation erode workers as 25 trillion Naira salaries.
And we come to the Nation newspaper this morning. Security chiefs Wike attacks Atiku for criticizing Buhari. And also IG blames violence tensions on governors. Tinubu to make Southeast industrial hub. And also in the Nation newspaper this morning, First Lady Governor's wife rally for Tinubu Shetima in Ilorin.
And the Sun newspaper, Daily Sun, efforts to reining on hoarders and to catch the thieves. The FCC chair says looted funds. They've placed many governors on the watch list. Naira redesign, we need more time to evacuate money from forests. That's according to Miet Yale, and they're appealing to the CBN. They keep money in the forest. The Inspector General of Police is accusing some governors of sponsoring political violence. And Tinubu unfolds economic plan for the Southeast, pledges industrial boom in the zone.
Let's take a look at the leadership this morning. Can soften stance presents demands to Tinubu. That's on the Muslim ticket. And also, no work, no pay policy has come to stay, federal government tells ASU. And East-West Road Communities commands by the NDDC. Wike to Shomole, I'm sorry for supporting Obasaki's re-election.
Of international papers, this is The Independent. A grim few years ahead. In the UK, the finance minister has announced that the country is now officially in recession as the economy shrinks. 2% will shrink by 2% by 2024.
And also this morning on the foreign scene, we'll look at the Independent. A grim few years ahead. And also Nancy Pelosi, the most powerful woman in U.S. politics, steps down.
The Guardian, from bad to worse, the UK enters a recession.
And more on the foreign scene this morning. Let's take a look at the I-Paper. UK's lost decades. In the I-Paper this morning, and still Nancy Pelosi quits U.S. politics.
And the Financial Times, the latter hunt paves way for years of pain. Living standards face record squeeze, growth set to contract 1.4% in 2023.
And now let's bring in Imanu Bello for the press preview analysis. Thanks for joining us always, Imanu Bello. And then we'll begin with This Day, one of the headlines in This Day newspaper, which is Bawa, Naira Redesign, significant step to economic recovery. So far, we've seen what this has presented to the economy, be the foreign exchange dealers, the bank. How would you say this at the end of the day, like in the words of Bawa, how has this become significant, or is it significant to the progress of our economy?
Yeah, well, Bawa is talking about it, and that was what the federal government was aiming at. That look, if you redesign those naira, then probably you'll be able to get those monies out. So he's doubling down on that, and talking about it and saying that it's going to be one of the benefits of redesigning the naira. You know, more money is going to go to the financial institution, and of course that will force down the price of the dollar. It's his own way of looking at the situation. But economists have been weighing on this and saying that, well, maybe not much of that will happen. The jury is out on what could happen to the economy and what could not. But from the perspective of Bawa, the EFCC head, is saying that, well, this way, if not anything, at least check the corruption, monies that are stashed away for all sorts of nefarious activities, for banditry, for paying of ransom, and maybe also for dealing in guns and and all the other things that those monies could be meant for, monies that were outside, the very dangerous money that were outside the institution of control and regulations and supervision. So he's saying that, well, if you rein in this money in the way they are doing, it's you're going to take away a chunk of that. There are people applauding this, only that it seems to be a little bit too late in the day. The administration is in its twilight, almost on the way out, and you are having this. If this had happened earlier, maybe it would have been better. But it's never late. They say it's better that it's late than never. And I think the president, who actually President Buhari ran on on one of the tripods of his administration, is anti-corruption, to check that corruption. And maybe in these dying days of his administration, he's trying to see whether he can actually just get some things back, get a buy-in into some legacy, sort of a legacy thing. And people are actually applauding this and saying that, well, if not for anything, he's going to suck out those monies from the, flying around, take them back to the banks. But how that is going to radically change the economy, with some people even saying that the dollar will come down to as low as 200 to a dollar to an naira, and some people think that is a bit far-fetched. It's hope expanded beyond reason, but we're looking at it, and Bawa yesterday was really excited and talking about it. So many people saying that it's a good policy, and that you and I, Benny, this is not about us, it's about those politicians who've stashed all those monies away. Not just politicians, but even some rogue businessmen who have stashed monies away, but now are forced to take them back to the bank. The president has been saying this from day one when this started, that look, it's not about the ordinary people, it's about these top people who have this money stashed away. And because of that, I think he got some accolades, got some applause from the rest of the country. But like I said, how that critically translates into the end of inflation, or the crisis of poverty, the buying power of the Naira, and the change in our life, the jury is out. Economists are discussing it.
Emmanuel, you speak of corruption. Let's add dishonesty. Let's add fraud as well to that. INEX released, it's sent out a press release, an update on the ongoing display of the voters' register. And just yesterday, I believe you've seen some images. I spent some time combing through that register, and across the nation, the north, south, east, west, the voter register is riddled with ineligible voters. First question, Emmanuel. Are most Nigerians corrupt and dishonest? Because I believe it's citizens who carried out those processes. And if you see a child, if you go to register to get your PVC, you need to present some form of identification. How did children get into the voters' register? Who is to blame?
Well, clearly the system is to blame, and that's the INEC, the regulatory body itself, because I mean they're the one charged, initially with the job of registering. No other person is doing the registration work. They're the one doing the registration work, and so the onus, the burden to get a transparent register out lies with them squarely. But it's a good thing that INEC is actually also, turning the mirror to itself and looking itself in the eye, in the face, and saying, look, the changes begin with us. Because if you are not going to have transparency at that level of regulation, if you are not going to have transparency and some honesty and decency in the way INEC runs its business, then the entire process itself is in trouble. INEC likes to say that, well, corruption and electoral crisis emanate from politicians, but there are people who say that the umpire himself needs to check itself. And so I think that's what INEC is doing, talking about this early in the day, identifying some of the loopholes, like we noted, those kids practically, being registered. I think a lot of them found in the northern part of the country, children, underage voters. It's been a problem that's been there, but Professor Mahmoud is doing everything in his power now to check it. Because if we don't get it right at the level of regulation, at the level of the umpire, those who are going to actually administer this election, then we're doomed. We're going to have the kind of change that people are hoping to use the ballot to do. It's in trouble, that'll be an issue. And so this is why this is very important. This is very important. I think going to the weekend is something that we should do more reporting around. Beaming our searchlights on INEC and ensuring that it does the right thing. It starts with that. If we're going to have transparent election, we must have transparent umpires.
Now let's come to the governor of Rivers State. Nyesom Wike, he attacked his party's presidential candidate, Atiku, for criticizing the president, Muhammadu Buhari, and he has also vowed to remain in the PDP to fight what he calls vultures and scavengers. At the same time, during the launch of a bridge in the Port Harcourt capital of Rivers, he pledged logistic support for Peter Obi whenever he's ready to come to the state for his campaign.
Well, he's always stopping short at saying either he's going to leave the party or even announcing who is going to back, for the presidency. I don't know where we are now in this game, because clearly his body, maybe his soul, is left the PDP already. But he keeps saying that, look, I'm going to stay back there. It's mixed messages, like we keep saying. We don't know what he's hinting at. He didn't say, for instance, he's backing the presidency or the presidential bid of Peter Obi, but he said, look, I will provide you logistics. The states actually provide those kind of logistical support for anybody who goes to their state to campaign. Is this an endorsement? Well, the Peter Obi people, of course, will take it as one. But he's not clear about that. It's never been clear about who he is going to support at the presidential level. I don't think he has made a very clear-cut statement around that, Benny. I don't know if you've had anywhere, but he's saying he's always in the borderline of saying, look, I do not trust Atiku. And then they charge about whether because Atiku was taking a swipe at the ruling government and saying that, look, all the security chiefs are from one ethnic group. It's a charge that has followed this government. The issue of nepotism, the fact that this government has not been able to diversify or even reflect the multicultural diversities in our system, especially in the appointments of security chiefs, that it's dangerous to have just one ethnic group there. So the unifier, Atiku was talking about that, and Wike is saying that, well, you have not even shown that is not reflected in what you've done, and I think that's the swipe again at the IU situation. How fair is that? I think the Atiku campaign were able to reach back to us, but I'm sure they will say something like, well, look, we balanced the tickets. I'm a Muslim. I'm from the north. My vice is from the south. He's trying to say that, look, that's better than what you have, for instance, with the APC, where, as at yesterday, they were still, trying to defend the Muslim ticket. So I don't know what the campaigns will say, but Wike is saying that, look, you cannot talk about unity or unifying this country. You cannot even take shots at what the president has been accused of, which is nepotism, especially in the choice of security chief, when you yourself have not balanced very well in the way that the party is structured. And I think that is another resurgence of the crisis of the IU must resign battle.
Emmanuel, the APC is have taken their campaign to the southeast. The presidential candidate Bola Tinubu has promised to make the region an industrial hub, and he's also gotten a donation of R1 billion to his campaign.
I think that's bound to hurt someone, Peter Obi, to say that, look, in the southeast, the businessmen are pulling those kind of money. I was just thinking about it. I say, well, I don't think Peter Obi would like this. That what is supposed to be his base, his party base, is making those kind of donations and collecting and giving up to $1 million.
1 billion naira.
1 billion. So that's a lot of money that you're going to give. To a campaign.
None of the eastern governors are supporting him, by the way.
Well, one of the governors was speaking very well there and spoke so glowingly at that event. Your guess is as good as mine, the governor that was speaking. So some of the governors actually in the party are already talking. Don't forget that Hope Uzodinma is of the APC. and which of the other governor who is actually making the charge, speaking at the event. So pulling money together, and that's part of the problem, because where you have a situation where businessmen in the East are pulling together £1 billion Naira to support the APC, to support the candidate, the Peter Obi camp is bound to wonder what's going on. They will tell you that this government has not been so good for businesses, and why are these businessmen pulling in those kind of those kind of money? But of course, campaign financing, which is actually a huge issue. I think the leadership newspaper is discussing that already. The problem of the monies that is being spent in this campaign and all of that. We've not been able to look at that, but that's a serious issue. The donations, the kind of money is received by the parties, the kind of money received by the campaign. Some people say that is where the corruption starts, when you start receiving those kind of huge donations. But of course, parties need money for advert payment, for logistic, for a whole lot of things. There's a cap to that. Unfortunately, most of the civil society are saying that the parties have not been able to show any kind of transparency in campaign funding and campaign financing, which is gulping too much money. And some people believe that is part of the problem. When they spend so much on campaigns and in the election itself, over 700 polling units that need to be manned, that it compromises them from the start, especially when governments are formed.
Just quickly, Emmanuel, touch on the latest MBS report saying 133 million Nigerians are poor.
It's worrisome, and I don't know whether we here are actually part of that statistics. But it's 133 million of poor Nigerians.
Our population.
Well, yes, more than that. And Benny, this will interest you. Have 65% of that is in the north. The north that actually produced, that has been in power in the last 7 years. So that tells you something about whether a presidential candidate emanating from your zone actually changes the story for you. 67% of that is in the north, with Sokoto, Bayelsa, Kano, Kebbi State, taking the biggest, chunk of that and saying that it is the poorest state. So 65% of poverty in the north, shared between 133 people across the nation. I think that's very troublesome, and as we head into the weekend, it's something to look into the human angle of that story.
Very troublesome indeed, Emmanuel Bello. Thank you very much for the analysis always on the press preview. And that's all the time we have on press preview this morning. But let's share your views on all the burning issues. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV. And you can also join today's conversation using the hashtag AriseDaybreak.